Welcome to the first episode of the Warrior Freedom Service Dogs podcast, where we share inspiring stories of transformation and incredible impact of service dogs in veterans' lives. In each episode, we will be speaking with veterans, community members, donors, supporters, and the dedicated team behind Warrior Freedom Service Dogs. Together, we explore how these life-changing partnerships are reconnecting veterans and restoring freedom, one dog at a time. I'm your host, Monica Piper with Warrior Freedom Service Dogs, and I'm the executive director. Today, we're joined by Josh McGinnis, branch manager of Benchmark Mortgage's McGinnis team in Chattanooga. Beyond his role in mortgage industry, Josh is a passionate supporter and board member of Warrior Freedom Service Dogs. Josh not only helps families achieve their homeownership dreams, but also plays a pivotal role in supporting our veterans. Let's explore his journey and the synergy between his professional endeavors and philanthropic commitments. So just tell me a little bit about your journey into the mortgage industry and what led you to establish McGinnis team in Chattanooga.
So the mortgage space is kind of like real estate.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people start off as a kid saying, I want to be a mortgage guy, right? We just fall into it. And I'm no exception. So I've had essentially 3 careers in my life. The first is in ministry. I was a pastor for a decade. Mm-hmm. And I loved it. It was great. So rewarding. But I was young. I didn't have a lot of good mentorship at the time. And I just burned out. Didn't have very good boundaries. And so I stepped away. My second career was in business coaching. And that's another kind of long story in itself. But I would work with business owners. So I started in 2008. The crash, right?
Oh my gosh.
I know. Trying to get business owners. Being like, hey, I know the market's going downhill, but give me money and I'll help you. But somehow it worked out and I was able to help a lot of people. And I had a niche. I worked with a lot of veterinarians. And so that kind of fit pretty well because I loved animals and all that. And then eventually kind of landed in the mortgage space. And how that happened is I wanted a business that I could one day have value in, sell it, or do something else. And with coaching, it was all on me. So a mortgage company offered me a role as a branch manager. I took it. That didn't work out as I thought it would. So I ended up leaving that company and eventually starting my own branch. And I've been doing mortgages for about 10 years.
Yeah, that sounds like a difficult time during that period of time. Oh my goodness. So how does your team integrate community values into your business practices?
I have a list of values. And my values for my business are the same as my values for me personally and for my family. Mm-hmm. And most people, when they do values, it's things like honesty, integrity. Mm-hmm. But I like word pictures. So my values are things like be the Wolverine. And that comes from a story with my son. I was training for the Ironman and I had a big race coming up and I was talking to him about it. And I just said, I'm really scared. I'm nervous. Like, this is the biggest race I've ever done. I've never gone this far. I don't know if I can do it. And my son, he looks at me and he says, Daddy, be the Wolverine. And I was like, oh, okay. What does that mean? He said, don't you remember the story you read me about the Wolverine? I was like, oh yeah, I do. And I read this story. And the story was as simple as this. A wolverine, a very small animal, can actually defend against a bear. Much, much bigger, much, much stronger and everything else because a wolverine is just so ferocious. They have a tenacity. They never give up. And so he was telling me, like, don't give up. Be that wolverine. You're scared. You're overwhelmed. But you can see this story. There's such wisdom coming out of a very, very young kid. And so be the Wolverine. Another one is get out of the boat. That's a biblical reference for my faith, which is take risk. Step outside of your comfort zone. I'll share just one more. Remember the Challenger. The Challenger, the infamous spaceship shuttle that exploded when it launched. And as a kid, I remember watching that and then being amazed that there was an O-ring that had essentially malfunctioned that wasn't properly tested for the temperatures at which they launched the shuttle. The O-ring failed and those people lost their lives.
Yeah.
And so remember the Challenger is to remind me And those that are part of my team, the little things matter.
Yeah.
The small details can make a big difference. And so you got to keep those. So I've got different values that are all tied to like some story, some visual image, and those things are how, I just run my decisions through those values.
Going back to what your kid said, it's amazing how when your kids are young, they come up with these ideas and just bits of truth that they just pull out of nowhere that you're like, wow, like your perspective on life can be sometimes better than somebody who's an adult, I know when my daughter was really young and I told her, because she played drums, and I said, oh, I can't do that. And she goes, well, if you believe you can do anything. And so that's one of those things that stuck with me from my daughter that I always think about, because it's just such a good truth. If we believe in things, we can definitely achieve them.
Absolutely.
So anyway, I just love that story. Yes. So we've seen glowing testimonials about your team's dedication and professionalism. How do you cultivate such strong client relationships?
Well, and that's such a good question. When I started off in the mortgage space, I did have a guy that was training me,
Mm-hmm.
and I was working on a loan, and he asked me what I was doing. I said, well, I think I can save this borrower $20 a month. He was like, okay, what are you doing? And I told him. He said, don't do it. It's not worth it. I said, well, I mean, it's $20, right? I mean, why not? He said, because it's going to take you 30 to 50 minutes to figure it out. Then you're going to have to call the borrower and explain it to them. That's going to take another 30 to 45 minutes. Then they're going to have a question about it and call you back. That's going to take another 10 to 15 minutes. And you're not going to make any more money off of this. They're never going to know about it. So don't even bring it up. And it really bothered me, because I was like, wait a second, if I can do something that can save somebody some money, then I feel like I ought to. Like that's my responsibility. And when I was in ministry, I would teach financial management classes. Mm. Dave Ramsey, Crown Financial,
right?
Those type things. And so I just always wanted to go above and beyond to save people money. And that's what we do. It's, I've been working with a lady. I talked to her, 45 minutes ago. And we've been working together for about 6 months on refinancing. I've probably had 5 conversations with her, spent 3 hours in total on everything. And all the conversations are essentially the same, because that's what she needs. And we're helping her make a really good financial decision. And she's really nervous about things. She's a single mother. We have 4 kids. So, I mean, I understand why you'd be nervous, and just taking that extra time with her. Had another situation with a borrower who's really in some financial hardships. Mm-hmm. And they came in, we sat down, we're going over their budget, their finances, and things that are not even related to mortgages.
Right.
But the wife is actually crying, which is an indication of her stress level, and helping them out. But what I found is that when you just treat people the way that you would want somebody to treat you, they will remember you. They will refer you. They will come back to you. And so doing the right thing will pay off in the long run. But you have to have that long-term mentality. Because if you're just after the short term, then you can try to take advantage and fleece people all day long and make some money. But you're not going to have a good life.
Yeah.
Because people will trust you.
It's very true. I like that answer. I think that's one of the things that Warrior Freedom Service Dogs has really been able to do as well. A lot of times veterans will call for help, trying to get a service dog, but at the same time, that might not be necessarily what's immediately needed. And so a lot of the times we sit there and we listen to what they're telling us and try to figure out a solution, whether it's going through our program or maybe it's finding another program in the area to help them through, and just being that person to talk to. And, sometimes it's not the program right for them right now. And so they'll come back, and then when they're ready, they're like, okay, it's time, but that's like the most important part, is just building that relationship and building that trust, because, veterans, it's hard for us to trust sometimes because I am a veteran as well. Yes. But, especially back, when I was getting out of the military, and, the VA has changed a lot, but still not there.
It's a lot better.
It's a lot better.
It's a lot better than it used to be.
But I know, my experience with the VA was all bad when I first got out, and that was 2010. So it's a while ago now. And, my view has changed just because of all the changes they've made. But, it's just really important to be able to feel like you're heard and that you're getting through to somebody is really a big thing for veterans. And they'll remember that experience. And I think that's something that makes us a really good organization in just being able to be those kind of people that will sit there and listen to their stories and build that trust. So,
well, we really love Warrior Freedom.
Yes.
And, the purpose of money is there to serve a purpose. Mm-hmm. And then the key there is money is there to serve us in the purpose of money. It's not the other way around.
Right.
Like, we're not there to serve money. And a lot of people, I think, do worship money.
Yeah.
Idolize it. It can become greed, other things that just destroy us and rob us of our joy. And so what's the purpose of money? To save it, to spend it, to invest it, and to give it. Those are kind of like the general purposes. And I know those categories can overlap a little bit. But in looking at how to give it, my wife and I started discussing, that. We evaluate those things from time to time. But our local church, my wife and I helped start a school. We've got like 74 kids.
That's amazing.
We love it. If you've got a kid in the Chattanooga area, you ought to check out Ingleside Tutorial. We're super passionate about it.
Wow.
And so we give to that a lot. And then the third area is Warrior Freedom. And what matters to us about Warrior Freedom is I remember growing up with my uncle, and his name was Uncle Billy. And Uncle Billy was in Vietnam. And every time we went over to see him, as a kid, I was fascinated by that. I mean, come on. Every kid, I think, is a little fascinated by people in the military who are in war, and we watch movies or we see TV shows. So I want to talk to him about it. And I want to talk to all my other family that was in the military, because he wasn't the only one. At that time, a lot of people were in the military, a lot of men. And every time my parents were like, don't talk about the military. Don't talk about the war. Don't bring it up. And I would say, why? They say, well, it was just a bad time for Billy, Uncle Billy. He doesn't like to talk about it, and it puts him in a bad place. So don't bring it up. And I didn't understand it. But later on in life, I did begin to understand it. And I had a friend who unfortunately was in a bank when the bank was robbed. And that was a single event. It didn't even last that long. They were in and out in just a few minutes, but it was one of those get on the ground, guns out kind of event, right? And this individual ended up having PTSD. And it kind of makes sense, right? You're in a bank, all of a sudden something really scary goes down, it freaks you out. And so every time they had to go back to the bank, they would just have these panic attacks. They started to get really stressed. They ended up changing banks because of it, changing even how they managed going to the bank. They do the drive-through instead of walking in, all these other things for one event that took place in, I don't know, what was it, maybe 6 minutes total time? But then think about our veterans. They are on high alert for extended periods of time. That affects you chemically. That affects you. And they're seeing things that nobody wants to see. Very traumatic events. Women in the military, golly, we could talk about women. What women have faced historically in the military, sometimes, a lot of times even at the hands of other service members. There's just a lot of trauma. And so these veterans are coming back home, and we're not really providing mental help for them. And what I saw that Warrior Freedom is doing that, having success with it. Warrior Freedom is the only organization within 350 miles. Is that right?
That's true. Yeah.
That's serving veterans with PTSD. I was like, I really want to be a part of that. And I love the ultimate vision too, which is expanding it from just military to first responders, because police officers have the same situation. I mean, if you've ever seen a video of a police officer doing a traffic stop,
Yeah.
you always say, what do? They go up and where do they put their hand? On the car.
On the back.
On the back. They're trained for that.
Right.
When they're interviewing a person, they can't sit there and give eye contact and be really focused on you. They're looking around, what else is going on, making sure somebody's not coming up on them. That level of stress causes problems, not for everybody, but for a lot of people. And so I wanted to be a part of an organization that's changing lives. And, that's how we found Warrior Freedom.
Yeah, that's awesome. I would have asked what inspired you to support Warrior Freedom Service Dogs, but I think you answered that question. Can you share a memorable experience from your involvement with our organization?
I remember back when the property was, it was still on Adam's property, and Adam's the founder. I went out there and I met with Adam, and when I heard the origins of Warrior Freedom, it was like immediately snap. It was just, my heart was there. And I've shared this story, but I want to share it here. Adam, the founder, he owns Ace Hardware. In fact, he's got 2 locations. And he's in Ace Hardware. Somebody comes in, they're shopping around, and all of a sudden Adam notices this person does not look well. They're not acting normal, is what we would call it, right? And so Adam's like, okay, I better go talk to this guy. He goes over. Another person who's a customer comes up at the same time. And that other customer is like, hey, I know what's going on. And he's like, hey, are you a veteran? The guy's like, yeah, I am. And he's like, okay, I got you, buddy. And the veteran that was having a hard time, the other customer noticed it because he's also a veteran and he saw the signs of PTSD. And so they're talking, and the veteran who was struggling was like, I'm so sorry. I'm on a wait list. I'm trying to get a service dog, but it's like years and years is the wait list. And my therapist said, go somewhere in public that is safe. I've been to Ace because it's not as crowded as big box stores. I feel so bad. I'm sorry. And Adam is like, wait, what do you mean you're waiting for a dog? Tell me about that. Because what that guy didn't know is that Adam trained dogs. And now he trained hunting dogs, right? But still, he knew how to train dogs. Adam invites that veteran over to his house, ends up getting him a dog, helping him train the dog, and Warrior Freedom is launched from that chance encounter. And I fell in love. And I was like, I want to be a part of making a difference for veterans and their families.
Yeah, at that time, it was Operation Freedom Dogs.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So we have since changed our name, but that was in 2015, and this is actually 10 years. So 2025, we've been an organization for 10 years, and we've been able to help 33 veterans, service dog teams. So it's amazing.
Here's the awesome part about that, though, because you hear the number 33, you're like, well, 33, that's not a lot.
Right.
Yeah, it's not. When you look at the grand scheme of everything. But each of those veterans has a family. And I remember Wayne, who shared his story many times, amazing man. I have great respect for him. But he was in war, came home, became a police officer, retired from that, and that was his final trigger. He just shut down, would barely go out of the house, kind of a walking zombie. And he gets a dog, starts going back out in public. For the first time, starts going to his grandkids' Little League games. Yeah. Starts going to restaurants with his wife again. And his family's like, we got our, husband, dad, granddad, depending on who's saying it, we got him back. And so when I hear the number 33, I'm like, no, that's how many animals, and that's how many veterans that we've placed an animal with. But the total number of impacted lives just from those 33 is in the hundreds and hundreds. And Warrior Freedom is doing it on a dime budget. Right. On a dime budget, like having more success with training animals, lower costs than other places, really streamlining it and getting way, way more value, more bang for the buck.
Absolutely. How do you see the relationship between local businesses and nonprofits enhancing community well-being?
And I'd go back to this. I think every person has a moral responsibility to give back. And our job is to figure out how to give back. We should give back both with time and money, and do something that allows us to make a difference and gives us a sense of purpose and mission in life. And so business owners, we exist to make a profit. That's the purpose of every business, to make a profit. Okay. So you have to make a profit. And then so what are you going to do with that profit? We should spend, we should save, we should invest, and we should give back.
And I think giving to the community that you live in is and not just as a business, but as a person, like living in a place that you can support and give back. It's just such a meaningful thing. You can see that immediate impact that you're giving to. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I've always loved it with local nonprofits, just being able to see that actual impact. And you meet people like with Wayne, he has so many friends and family and people that he's touched their lives. And you meet them all the time. He's not the only one, but he's just an example of somebody that, you can see that immediate impact and how that affects so many people around you. And it's just amazing. So
yeah, he's an amazing guy.
Yeah.
Everybody that meets him loves him.
Oh, yeah.
Very, very impressive. One of the greatest volunteers, with Warrior Freedom.
Yeah.
And is really giving back. And Warrior Freedom has an event. He's going to get on stage and speak. And he gets scared to death every time he does it. He's nervous. And you can tell. But he's there because he believes that much in the organization.
Yeah, I saw them today, actually, because we did a health fair at Unum. Better say it right. But Charlie, just such an amazing example of a service dog. And he's just it's an awesome, dog to have at an event like that, because he's able to actually be social, but also be a service dog at the same time, which isn't always the case. So he's kind of a special service dog in that way. One of the really cool things about Charlie too was that he is a Mexican street dog
I forgot that.
that was brought over here. And he was only 1 year old when he became Wayne's service dog. So
I didn't realize he was that young.
Yeah, and that's not typical.
No,
so usually about 1.5 to 2 years is the age that we place the dogs. And so that was just one of the other stories actually that I learned today was his foster wanted a sergeant major from the Vietnam War to be the owner of Charlie. It was on his wish list, and that's exactly what he got.
That is crazy.
So, because the person that fostered Charlie wanted him back. He didn't want to give him up.
That's the problem with fostering.
But that was what his wish list is because his father was a sergeant major who also served at Vietnam. So,
wow,
it's a little tidbit. But
you were talking about community involvement. Remind me, who's sponsoring this podcast? Because you have a sponsor, don't you?
So EPB is, they are committing to sponsoring for our podcast. And so I think everybody knows who EPB is.
We definitely know who EPB is. The fastest, best internet.
The fastest, best I have EPB for my internet, but also electricity. Yeah. They turn the lights on for everyone. But they are also really engaged in the community as well. And we look forward to being community partners with them. So we're really happy.
So last night, my kids had a friend over. The friend was talking about going to New York around Thanksgiving. So we're talking about, you got to go see the displays, the window displays. And my son was like, is that like the TVA displays downtown? And I was like, wait, what? And he said, the Christmas things downtown. And I was like, oh, no, that's EPB. He was like, EPB, TVA, what's the difference? I was like, well, one kind of makes energy and the other kind of distributes energy.
Right.
And everything. But we had this whole conversation because EPB every year does those display windows. And,
Yeah.
and one of the things I love, I have a good friend who's head of sales over at APB, and his name's Kennard. So, Kennard, shout out to you, man. But they are really passionate about not only providing great service to Chattanooga, but also giving back to the community. And so, like, hey, guys at APB, love you guys so much. Couldn't do it without your internet. I've got it at the office and at home. But more importantly, thank you for giving to make a difference in the lives of veterans and their families. So I definitely want to give a shout out.
Yes, definitely. Thank you for doing that too.
Yeah.
Tell me about your boys and what their business.
So a few years ago, my boys wanted me to buy them Legos because they're boys, and I think every boy loves Legos. Lego definitely has the market cornered, I think, on what they do. And they get Legos. They get it at Christmas, Easter, birthday, all that kind of stuff. And I was like, guys, I'm not buying any more Lego sets. If you want to buy Lego sets, you're going to have to make money. You're old enough to make money. Now, for perspective, my youngest would have been maybe 8 and 11 for my oldest. And so I said, okay, what are you going to do to make money? And my oldest, who was like 11, he said, I could draw pictures and sell them. And, me trying to be a really great dad, I was like, that's a horrible idea. I was like, no, okay, let's think through this. Who's going to buy your pictures? He's aunts, uncles, grandparents. I was like, absolutely. They would buy your pictures. Well, why? He said, well, because they love me. I said, okay, now let's think about strangers, our neighbors, those people, when they buy. He said, well, some of them probably would. I said, why? He said, well, because they would want to help me. I was like, that's true. They would want to help you. But how many people actually want the painting, though? And they want to hang it up? And how many would want to buy the second, a third, a fourth? He was like, oh, probably not many. Why is that? Well, because I'm not very good. And I was like, you're not. Yeah. Which is one of my rules for parenting. I think you should be honest with kids.
Yes.
Right? So I said, you need an idea of something you can sell that people want, that they can use, that they want to rebuy. And my 8-year-old said, you know what? We should make dog treats. Well, okay, how come? He said, because everybody has a dog in the neighborhood, which is not an exaggeration. In my neighborhood, dogs are everywhere. And so I was like, okay, let's make some dog treats. So we make some dog treats, and they sell, I think 30 bags for $5 a piece. They're over the top excited. They do it a couple more times. So like, okay, now we're going to name the company. And my youngest, again, he's the one who came up with the name. And it's called Freedom Dog Biscuits.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it was named in honor of Warrior Freedom. And they said, and I told them, I said, now here's your goal with your money. You can spend it. You can save it. And for them, I included investing with saving or give it away. You need to do all three. So who do you want to give money to? And I said, we want to give money to Warrior Freedom because we're making dog treats and kind of makes sense. And so they sell them for $5 a bag. They give $1 back to Warrior Freedom. And over the last couple of years, I don't know, it's somewhere between $300 and $500.
That's amazing.
They give it back to Warrior Freedom. But they make dog treats almost every single month.
Wow.
And just walk through the neighborhood and sell them.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You've got some great kids. I bet you're really proud of them, huh?
Yeah. I'll if I could only get them to spend less on Pokemon cards.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you can try, right?
Yeah, I can try. And more on the saving part.
Yeah.
That would be better.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that about wraps everything up. To learn more about Warrior Freedom Service Dogs and how you can contribute, you can visit warriorfreedom.org. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and you can subscribe with our podcast. We do have a YouTube channel, and we have, we're going to be putting this on Spotify. And stay tuned for upcoming episodes where we delve deeper into the transformative journeys of our veterans and their service dogs, and to hear from the community members, donors, supporters, and Warrior Freedom Service Dog team members who make this mission possible.
The place where strength begins, where hope returns and trust begins.